And then simply you're going to prepare us. Okay, thank you very much.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Next, Mike, you want to talk about farmers market?
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
Oh. So, for the farmer's market, I think one of our key objectives is, I think, to promote or support the island agriculture businesses. I think that's probably a linchpin of what we're trying to do. As we move forwards with what we're doing, I want to make sure that we're taking that into consideration and that we're getting feedback in it, et cetera. So as we're working on, and I know we're still early, I know even right down to the forums, we're still early at getting this whole thing organized. We're learning too.
Yeah.
So I think patience is important.
Yep.
So I just want to make sure that through this process that we're aligned with and meeting the primary objective, which is supporting the island agricultural businesses. I think everything else, I think the second objective clearly is to provide a service to the public, but ideally we're not competing with, we're actually supporting the island agricultural businesses, as well as providing the service to the public.
I would agree with that. I think what we need to do is, so right now there's a couple different groups that are bubbling up. It's not just the GI Cooperative. There's other groups that are considering the farmers market. So the communication or the conversation has started, which I think is good for the island. So what I would suggest is we take a step back, see where the private sector goes on this, see what the candidates are good, and then we're all willing to continue to be the facilitator for this project. Because I think there are two objectives here, to encourage local agriculture, but I also think another competing interest is a big public demand for an alternative to the produce at Tops. So in what we could do, there's two ways to go right now, right? One way is to slow it down and to work with the GI, the ag group on the island, which is important. The other way would be for me to go out to outside vendors, that have tons of extra produce, and then just swamp them and kill them, and squash whatever efforts they're trying to do to develop their efforts. So we have to balance that. So I think what we're going to do is take a step back. I want to see where these other groups are going, and I want to reach out. I encourage you guys to reach out so we can discuss more about how we can be the facilitator rather than the enforcer or the squelch.
The person that runs it. Stepping up.
So local service groups are interested now. They said, okay, we can use this to make fundraising for us. So I think because there's so much interest now, it's how can we patch all this together to make sure all the stakeholders are benefiting.
Right.
So
one thing, when I've done research, and if you go out to Tonawanda, there's all the different town markets like this. You look and you consistently see their mission, because they usually have a mission statement, is to support their towns or villages, agricultural business. I think that really is probably one of our key objectives. So I just want to make sure we don't lose sight of that.
well
I think
stated.
it's the key, but I also think that whatever we can supplement that they can't.
Yeah, this is
That's
something
an
we need to
option,
state
too.
is no matter how successful they are,
Oh, yeah.
they're never going to have enough to fill a farmer's market.
We're going to need more than just
Outside, yes.
Yes.
Right. But I think one of our key objectives would be that.
I agree with that 100%.
Can I
I agree.
comment on that because you spoke so directly to me? Okay.
Yep.
That has been the absolute most important thing since we were working on this in May. And I just want to make that clear. Like, I'm
Oh,
a
yeah.
farmer's daughter. I'm big on supporting and having local produce. So it sounds like you didn't think that was the mission, but it
Oh,
was
no.
the mission.
No, I'm just making sure that we don't lose sight of the mission. That's it. Because, you can start patching other things into it, like artwork and
Yeah.
other things.
And
I
we've
think
got
that's
gotten interest from a lot of art vendors who want to be part of it.
Yeah.
So I think the surge of interest is good, and the different parties that are coming together. I agree with what you're saying. Just one shout out to Cindy. I know Cindy, you worked really hard on this, and I don't want to be a roadblock for the efforts you've been doing, and I really appreciate that. But I think what he's saying is right too. We can get together and we can figure out a way that all the stakeholders are appreciated and recognized. Does that make sense? Okay, so on that, I'll come back to you guys. The action item is that I'll come back and we'll talk about it more after I reach out to some of these new groups. Vacation homes, want to give an update? I put it on the agenda because I want to see where you guys are on it.
We just
Hot
got
off the presses.
hot off the presses, the update that Charles did last week.
Thank you.
So we would have given it to you in advance, but
Yeah,
literally
right.
We just
received
printed it. But it looks like, I've only had a couple minutes to go through it, but it looks like they, put all the changes in that everybody recommended. And we wrote, a lot of it was minor stuff, but they added about the fire things and didn't have time to go through it. I would like to go through it.
Yeah, so I think this has to just wait till the next meeting before we can do much more
Okay.
here, but
We can
What
set a
else?
public hearing now, because
Yeah.
that's
Well,
2
what if
weeks
we
out,
read it
and
a
the
week
next,
ago and
and
change
the
it?
next, workshop, we'll rip it through.
Well, what if we read it and then there's more additional changes? Well, I
We
don't
can
think
do
there's.
that the next
Okay,
workshop,
all right.
because we still have 2 weeks before the next meeting out.
So you want to make a motion to set a public hearing?
I'd like to do that, what do you think?
Go ahead, Ray. I'm sorry.
She wants to make a motion.
Could we do it not at the next one?
Yeah.
The
We can
next
do it
next
tonight.
one?
We can make a motion at the
Okay,
meeting
it's made
tonight.
upstairs, all right, got it.
Ray's right.
No, doing nothing right now.
Right.
Okay.
so we're not gonna make the motion tonight.
Make it upstairs.
Okay, yeah.
So I just want to give you guys an update on this community grant. I know, Chris, you and I talked about it briefly, $210,000 for the Nike base. So that was out there. I made some calls to see what the status was. It took us a while, but we got to the Dormitory Authority. The Dormitory Authority didn't even, it's amazing to me, by the way, as a newly elected public official, how difficult it is to get information from these groups. But after several calls, we found out that the money is out there, and I said, well, why don't we have it? Give us the money. And you and I talked about this. So they're going to send me a documentation that we are going to be delivered the money. They said next week.
For
For
what is this?
it's set aside for community center and the Nike base to remove asbestos.
Is this the 200,000?
Yeah.
210,000.
That came from Senator
Panapinto, exactly.
Does
It
it
started with
commit us to
signing,
do a
right?
certain thing?
Yeah.
Or-
I have to read it, but I think it does. I think it commits us to remove that asbestos from the ground.
Okay, so that's
It
not,
covers it.
when I first read community center, I was thinking it was
No.
the, okay.
But I asked them if we could possibly use it for something else, and they said, well, it will be dictated by the terms you need to receive it. So I haven't received anything yet. So
John
if
has
it's-
all the information on that, if you talk to him. I think he's got bids and.
so
So
hopefully,
now this is actually coming from the state, which we don't have to repay. It's not a
Right.
capital.
no,
Got it.
It's not mentioned.
it's just,
fund
it's
general.
straight
Comes out of
cash from
member-
Panapinto.
It comes out of member item budget, their member item,
I
Right.
think it started with.
I think it's been in limbo
Right.
for several years.
just a year,
Yeah,
a little over a year.
Okay,
A year and a half, I
Right.
think.
but they're gonna deliver me the documentation next week, hopefully. So next, sewer charges during a drought. Mike, you wanted to bring this up?
Yeah, so, and I've seen some information that's been circulating through email, just kind of bringing us up to speed that this has been discussed in the past. I don't think though that we've actually discussed it relative to the 40,
No, sorry. Go ahead.
relative to the 40 new properties that are part of the ag district. I think similar to the garden store, or whatever you refer to it as, the farm market, that one of the things we want to do is promote agriculture in droughts like the current, or maybe in general, we may want to consider irrigation as an exception for those 40 properties in terms of having to be charged for the sewer bills. So, now how we would go about doing that, I don't know if it'd be a separate meter or what have you, but it does seem to make sense that maybe we would want to consider that.
So to explain it further, you're charged X amount for your water, and then you're charged an additional amount for sewer bills because the water goes into the sewer and we have to process it.
Right.
So the request or the item for consideration is whether or not we would create an exception for farming that they would not have to pay the sewer tax.
For those that are part of the agricultural district. So if we're talking 40 properties, so it's fairly limited, And out of that 40, it's probably only a handful that even do, irrigation.
Did you read the email that, Elaine sent around?
Yes.
Okay, and she makes a really very good suggestion that they're already doing for Fantasy Island, as far as setting up the sewer credit program.
Right.
And we could actually do that for the Ag District.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I was thinking. You know, I think, I've seen a couple of
They
different
already have it in
suggestions.
place,
Yeah,
so, and she said that it would, and she did an excellent job of putting everything in there, and how it's done and everything, very informative, so whoever sees Elaine, thank her for that.
Great.
So, because she suggests not making exception, because that's nit and pick, it's like spot zoning, and you don't wanna do that. So I think that her suggestion, and because we're already doing it with Fantasy Island, is something that's what we should look into and see if it would work.
Essentially, she's saying I read the email, it's hard to monitor, it's extremely, everyone asks for an exception every single year. Some people say I want for a swimming pool, and some say I want for this. So if you start making the exception, it's never been done before.
Slippery slope.
It's a slippery slope, that's her argument, and the other argument is that it's impossible to functionally do, because the water can be used for other purposes. So she's saying, well, why don't you do what everyone else does? And if only one party has ever applied for that exception, now it's a pretty grand amount of water you need to use. But the past opinion has been that it's been a cost of doing business, the additional sewer charge. So her recommendation is to not make this change, and that to recommend people who have large amounts of water usage to apply for the exception.
Okay.
For the credit.
John Whitney's email, I'm sure everybody saw that.
Yeah.
This needs to be referred to the Special Districts Committee,
Yes,
because that's where
and that's,
this
That's
conversation
where it
with
should
people
go.
that are involved in the water and wastewater system, sit around the table and have this discussion.
So I'll make a recommendation that it's referred to the Special Districts Committee. Is all in favor?
And within fairly short time, to
Yeah.
advise us on that.
They meet, the 29th, I think. Either the 22nd or the 29th.
So,
And ideally, maybe even individuals that have an interest, maybe if they could meet with them as part of that discussion. I don't know if that's typically how it would be done.
You know, that Special Districts Committee isn't
It's not?
Yeah.
Okay,
we just need to send
It's
them
an internal.
information.
discussion
okay.
with the people involved in the employees. I know, like, well, I shouldn't say elected officials, I'm liaison to that.
But then they would come back and give us,
They
advise us.
would give you an opinion.
Okay,
Yes.
got it. Okay,
so set up the next point, Pavilion at Best Park. Chris and Ray worked on this, and they're considering options to develop a needed pavilion at Veterans Park. You want to bring up an update?
Yeah, I just want to keep it moving, I guess, because, you know, we talk about capital projects. The money that's set aside for this can't be spent on anything but parks projects. So it really doesn't apply to any other capital projects unless it's within parks. This is something that is pretty much ready to go if we can determine what level. And the reason I'm anxious on this, if we're gonna do it, I wanna tell the teams and everybody that uses that we're gonna go ahead, because we've kinda promised them this. In the past, the old board approved this. But
Recognize that.
if we don't wanna do it, let's just tell them, let's not do it.
so you're saying there is, because I saw your email, there's some kind of money that's set aside already. It's like a bond from the state or something?
I gave you these sheets last week, you still have them?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's money in the trust and agency account, it's $123,000. There's $35,000 in, Priscilla trust account, it's $158,000, there's already $30,000 set aside for the re-roofing of the existing concession stand, that brings you up to $188,000. The bare bones project is $255,000, so money from fund balance, you wouldn't have to bond anything, you just take money from fund balance and we'd pay for it. The question is, do you want the bare bones one, or do you want something that's a little bit better, or do you want the thing completed? And I guess that then becomes a question of where does that money come from?
Right.
I doubt if it comes from fund balance. I don't know that, I went to talk to Pam, she's on vacation, so that didn't work. It would probably end up having to be bonded, but at our Van Bowering rate of 0.02% or whatever the crazy rate is, it doesn't cost anything to borrow the money.
Yeah.
We do have to pay it back, I get that, I understand that, but the interest is negligible on a ban. So, I don't know, I was talking last time about this, my suggestion would be to put this project out as,
Get it rolling.
The big one.
Just to get the numbers and
I
concurrently resolve all the other
I
issues.
put that out there.
Right.
And let John Whitney put together a bid, and put that bid out there, and then have alternative one and alternative two. And see what they come in, see what the numbers come in, because these are guesstimate numbers.
Yeah.
They might come in 50% higher than this, we don't know, or they might come in 10 or 15% lower.
Just to repeat it though, so we get these bids, it doesn't commit us to doing anything, and concurrently we resolve all the other issues. I think that's something we should be able to support.
Yeah,
Well, I do have some questions though, I mean, that I wrote out.
Right.
Are you done? Can I go? As I was looking through, I have all the sheets that Ray gave us last week. So we're talking about using trust money, and, you know, I think that also if we're going to do a project like this, we need to look at grants and whatnot to make up the difference, especially if you go to a higher. So you're looking at matching grants, funding and stuff like that. We missed the deadline for the grant application package process that we normally do, which doesn't come around until next July. That's just one of the things that, you know, were my concern. But another concern is that we had a long-range planning meeting for updating the master plan last week. The Recreation Advisory Board was there, and they're currently examining all of their planning documents, which includes their open space for the Veterans Park, and bringing them all up to date. It has, I don't know if this has been reviewed by the Parks and Rec Board, because there was no mention of it at the Long Range Planning Board meeting, when we had a really lengthy, in fact, the whole meeting was on recreation and the future
We did
plans.
talk about it, I'm not sure why they didn't bring it up, but
Let me just finish,
Yeah.
okay? For the future plans for Veterans Park, and that conversation was with Paul Blackner and Joe Mentor and Jason Masker. There was also a mention of updating the concession stand, and, you know, but there was no mention of where those funds would come from. Also, there was a mention of the community center project, and we talked about the master plan and how that is actually in the master plan. It was in Veterans Park. The pavilion, I looked at it again, I didn't see a pavilion in the master plan. It didn't appear, so it would have to be added. That's something that would have to be talked about, and seeing as we're in the middle of updating this master plan, that all would have to be added into it. So I think before we start moving forward in a really fast way, we need to look at our capital projects. There are other projects that we're talking about.
this was discussed with Joe at length.
He didn't bring it up,
Parks
though.
Department. Okay, so if I get a letter, then that's it, is that it?
Well, this is,
Well,
This is something the community wants. And we talked to them
this is
all.
the first that we've heard about it though.
But you know
So
what?
I haven't got all the information.
Right, because we had to get the information together. We didn't have anything from John, we didn't have anything, so this is the first time we are presenting it to the board. If the old board was here, we'd be presenting it at the same time, the same
Oh, I'm not
material.
saying that. I'm
So
just
this
saying
is-
that
so this is
this
what I heard.
information.
I talked to Pam, I talked to Parks and Rec, I talked to, and I want one to read. We can figure out a way to get it done, let's get it
So,
done.
let's just
So,
say,
so let me finish my point though. So I talked to Pam, Pam suggested we get through one budget cycle. She suggested that I'm gonna set up a capital projects meeting in a month or so, that we can all get together and see what all the capital projects are out there, and also what potential capital projects that are recommended from not only the board members, but also from the department heads, because there's, you know, including roads, including everything. I don't think there's an urgent need, we're almost through the summer season. And then
the urgent need would be, now's the time to build it.
the other thing I heard also from the parks today, or excuse me, parks today, and this may sound crazy, but I mean, it's just, I think you guys spoke to this last time, but they're like, well, can't we just build it? I mean, can't we just do it ourselves? Can't we just, you know, We have the know-how. Our guys can build that. Can't we just get together and it may take a little bit more time, but this is what they said to me. We think we can
Who
build
said
it.
that to you?
Tom Dwork.
He said they could build that?
He thinks he could. He says thinks they have the guys to do it. Maybe we could do it if we put a plan together with engineering and get it done. I mean,
Creative.
he said like maybe we can just do it.
We tried it.
There's
It's
one other
interesting
piece that I would like to.
Because to the best of my knowledge,
Yes, sir.
the Parks Department over the last 10 years
Uh-huh.
has been saying, we don't have enough people to get the stuff done we need to get done. We don't have enough people. We don't have enough people. Press play, press play. That's what you hear over and over and over.
That's right.
You really don't know where the manpower would come in order to build something like this.
Well, I don't know either, but I think we have to get together and talk these ideas out and see what they think. I mean, I think there may be a need for this, there may not be, but does it compete with other needs? Could the money be used for something else? I think we have to talk it out.
Well,
And I would feel, and you know I want to push a community center. I haven't gone through one cycle yet, so I haven't done it. I
So
want
on
to get through the budget processing once to see where the money is, so we can talk about this in an intellectual way.
On two questions.
Go ahead.
One is the community center, do we have a general quote being put together on that? Or do
I'm
we-
working on a general RFQ, but I'm not going to push it forward until I see, what it's going to cost. And I think to do that, I need to understand what other pressing needs are out there. So I want to wait for this capital projects plan.
Yeah.
The capital project plan is going to be in about a month, and then we're going to see everything. I'm going to have highway come in and say we need this done. I'm going to see, this 200. I'm still tracking down money. I found another grant that I'm going to try to bring up. Another grant that's in limbo.
Right.
Put all that stuff on the table and then say, okay, this is what we got. How can we go forward?
So just so we're clear, when we talk capital project, we wanna be looking at a 5-year window at
Right.
least, and looking at stepwise, when things burn out and we don't have to continue to pay on this thing, and when we can, start to wedge in other projects like both of these. Because one of the things we wanna try and do is keep our capital expense
Yeah, but
as much as
if I can
possible.
go back to the very beginning when Chris brought it up, and then I brought up your money situation. Right now, with the $188,000 that's there,
It's not huge.
okay? That's $78,000 short of the 255 estimated. And remember, at the bottom of that, it's really 207. Contractor's markup is 10, general conditions is 3, and contingency is 10. So
Could it be upgraded later?
if
I
you-
sure could.
if you went with the bare bones project, which means you've got a pavilion up, which is expandable, you can add the garage doors later, you can add the end wall, you can put the electric in, you can put the plumbing in. It's gonna be a bare bones, like the Miracle League Pavilion. And if we could save only 10% on the estimated cost, we're $50,000 out of our
Is,
budget.
So Ray, you're
So it's like, it's not nothing to get this done for the community. These people have been asking for this for I don't know how much long. They don't have any shelter out there at all. If there's a thunderstorm and there's lightning, everybody has to find their car. Run to your car, which might be pretty far away. There's no shade. There's no place to put a picnic table and get in some shade and sit down and watch your kid play, whatever the case may be.
You're gonna
We're
stay
talking,
here.
there's a good chance that if you put this out to bid, that you could get it for $50,000 on a fund balance.
So you're saying, so you're asking today, so you're basically saying there's a public need, this has been an ongoing demand for a long time, you guys have been looking at it with the prior board, it's been considered for what, years, it sounds like? And
Yeah.
So there's at least 3
Before,
years.
before the Miracle League put up theirs.
So before the Miracle League put up there, to me, we can do the budget version, it might make sense, and we're not committing right now, you're asking us to do what exactly? You're asking us to put it out to bid. To get
For
firm
John
bids.
to put the bid document together and to put it out to bid and see what we get with alternative 1 and alternative 2.
I
And see what it comes out
think
to.
more information doesn't hurt anybody. If we can get some estimates to see what this would really cost, not just guesstimates, why not?
And I know
I'd
Beth's
like to
Beth's
see-
Beth's thing about the master plan and all that kind of stuff, that's all well and good. But if you look at the last master plan, if you look at the first master plan, it was drawn completely wrong,
No.
and it wasn't followed. When you looked at the second master plan, it wasn't followed. Third master plan, it could be a master plan, the master plans are nice. This is what we're gonna look at, this is good, kinda nice, but that's not what happens. Things get built and things get put over there that aren't according to the master plan at all.
it shouldn't be done.
Well, the Miracle League got put up,
So you're asking.
just like that,
Can I ask some
Go ahead, Beth,
questions
go ahead.
here?
because, again, the master plan is an idea of what the site might look like.
Deb, go ahead.
What my point was that, not that we shouldn't do this. My
Sounds like
point is that right now, the Recreation Advisory Board, and that whole meeting was them and what their plans were. If they're already right in the midst of this, and to have their input and where they're gonna go, and they did mention different projects, that, you know, where does that land, where does that money come from? I mean, those are good questions I feel to ask. The other piece that I would like in the process of finding out what this costs is what it's gonna cost as far as maintaining it, personnel, all those other little pieces that should be put in there that in the long haul, once you have it up, what are the costs associated then? I do have one other question, and that was about the Miracle League Pavilion, and is that, because you say there's nothing to use, are we not allowed to use that pavilion too? Or is that just for the Miracle League and
No,
nobody else can use it?
Well, people can walk over and use it, but if they want it for their stuff.
Yeah, I know it's a
Yeah.
distance, but
Yeah.
I mean, when he said, I'm wondering, if it's the only pavilion there, right?
Yeah, but it's not
We're not allowed
near
to use
any.
it?
This board needs to have a meeting with the Miracle League board. Let's put that subject over there.
It's just a
Resolve
Okay?
question.
issues.
We need to be talking about some stuff. But
Okay.
besides that, if you're talking about the use of that Miracle League pavilion to do the things that I was talking about, it's across the road over there. And
Yeah,
your
I know, I
athletic
wanna look at it.
facilities are over here.
So I think we need to stack and rack priorities on what projects we want to do. But I think as part of the stacking and the racking, you guys get an RFQ to collect some information about what this costs, ain't gonna hurt.
I'd like to see the same thing for the community.
I agree.
center, too.
An RFQ?
So let's get
So let's-
some
And we have the
numbers together.
broadband,
So why don't-
project.
So why don't we do RFQs for both projects?
We did RFQs for this project already.
You did.
Yes.
So I
We
thought
got
that's what you'd
people-
asking for today.
No, we got people that come in and tell us how much it would cost to do this, to do this. We tried to break it up and get away from this bid process, because the bid process always costs you more money. So we tried to do it under the radar. In other words, if you can get capital projects done for $30,000 or less, you can do it. Maybe it's 35 now, I forget. Anyway, if you could get the whole barn put up, you say, okay, that's that contract, good, we're good. If you could have the concrete poured, it's a separate contract, you know.
Yeah.
2 months later, 3 months later, at the end of the season instead of the beginning of the season, we're all done. So if we snuck, and the town bought the material instead of the contractor buying the material. Chris worked really hard to get all that information together. I worked only a little bit on that. We did that. We got the RFQs from people, the quotes to bring that back, and it was too much. We have to go out to bid. John Whitney got an engineer to figure all this out, and we have this now figured out where these specs can go into a bid document to go out for a request for a bid. And when those bids come back, they will be competitive bids. Somebody will decide they
So your
need the work.
motion is,
My motion would be to put the, let's call it the Veterans Park Pavilion project. I would call it option 3,
Cheapest version.
the cheapest version, out to bid with alternative options of 1 and 2.
I would agree.
So that we see what we get back. If we
I would
like what we get back, okay. If we don't like what we get back, just don't award a bid.
I would agree if we put it out for a non-binding bid, so we can go
I
through the
think
process of evaluating. And we can see what we really have here. We don't know what's gonna come back. It could come back for more.
It could come back
come
for
back
more.
for
It could
more.
come back, if it came back for 300,000, we might say, you know what, we don't wanna do this right now.
At the same time, I think we should put the community center out to RFQ, so we can also evaluate that as part of a long-term plan. So, I'll make a motion to put this out to bid for a non-binding bid.
Well, let's,
Because we have money out.
Go ahead.
maybe we should just wait for, when Peter comes back later,
Okay.
to get his opinion on whether or not we can do that, or I'm almost positive that when we receive the bids, we don't have to award a bid.
You can if you put language in the bid that says we're allowed to do whatever we want, including reject and rebid. I'm almost 100% positive. It doesn't create any binding obligations as long as we put a caveat on the
right,
language.
we could definitely do that.
Yeah, so we can do that. So I'll make a motion subject
I
to
already
Peter's
did that,
review.
so,
Go ahead.
I already made that motion.
Okay, so I'll second the motion. So your motion is what? A non-binding bid?
My motion is to put out a bid for this project, Veterans Park Pavilion, option 3, which is the cheapest option, with alternative one and two, and see what we get back.
As long as they're non-binding.
Non-binding, non-binding.
Non-binding, is
Yeah.
fine, that word is just fine.
So I'll second the motion. Roll call.
Millica.
Aye.
Missouri.
Aye.
Veronica. Katie.
Aye.
Nancy.
So I want to make a motion that we put out an RFQ to explore the community center option, so we also have the information on that. Is there a second?
Which should, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Should that be an RFQ or an RFP?
RFQ, because I think we take the information from the RFQ to create the RFP.
A Q is a quote.
Right.
That means money.
Well, I've already talked, yes, and the whole process, I talked to Whitney about this. He recommended RFQ.
Okay,
So, but if.
that's fine.
So RFQ, I mean,
Yeah, proposal would be more detailed.
A proposal,
The quote is here,
Yeah,
proposal is much more
Yeah,
detailed.
proposal tells us what do they plan on doing.
Right.
a
I'd like
quote,
to know what they're doing.
we can also put in the quote language that would tell us, what do you think we should have? So just so you know, some people have already reached out to me and given me ideas about things they want to build. I think the numbers are fake. I think the numbers they're recommending are very, very low. I think it's going to cost more than that to build what they're. One guy said, I'm building an auditorium and a gym room and all this stuff for $2 million. Yeah, right. Exactly. So we put out the RFQ, see what comes back, use that to prepare an RFP. So I'll make a motion to put out the community center project to RFQ. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? A roll call.
Murray.
Aye.
Kenny. Millica.
Aye.
Veronica.
Aye.
Nancy.
Okay, that was
Just wise on the community center,
yes, sir.
is there, we need to really think about where we're gonna locate it.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
there some more economical location, you know? Is it gonna be near the town center, which has some benefits? Could it be off of the current maintenance rec building? Could it be,
Could it be the Nike base?
Right.
I mean, the Nike base is a great. It's free.
so
It's
far out
land.
of the way though?
It's so far out of the way, and we get a lot of complaints about that.
It might be nice to downsize it and maybe even,
Move it all in.
I think the center of the island is where it should be.
right,
I think I've talked about it before. If we can figure out some way to drive concessions revenue from it to help pay for the long-term loans, I think that's the way to go. I think there's options we can do that to create like a coffee shop space.
A bike path between the Parkway and West River.
I was at the
Not-
October meeting, that's
And there
what
was
was
two
proposed.
public hearings on that. That's what was not, the board never approved closing of that road.
So here's the
Nowhere
thing.
in there that's.
Can I explain the situation?
So, well, finish your question.
Go ahead.
then, Mike.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So
We don't have to.
So the
you're talking
proposal
recommendation.
related to the closure of the parkway, I've looked at the historicals, that's never been approved by the
No.
town.
Here's the thing.
I would like to know if
This
in
is how it
twenty
works.
sixteen, it's been
This is how it
somehow suggested that the
It wasn't just last year.
last one that they gave where there was a public hearing that the prior town board was involved in, showed the parkway open and a path between the parkway and the river. That was what was shown. So my question is back to, since then, since the last time that anyone took a position on it, has a new position been
You
presented
don't
to
have the
state?
right to make that position.
Yeah, but
you
no,
don't
I'm just
have the
As a
right
matter of fact,
No, you do
if you
not.
think about this.
Go ahead.
On what before the Greenway or for funding.
You're not being honest.
Yes, I am being
They
honest,
brought-
absolutely
they-
100%,
they brought
that
this
is the
forward.
timeline.
They brought this forward and they said we are going to. Okay, you can look up the law. The law. Let me finish.
Whatever, I'm just telling you what
Here,
happened.
let me tell you how we're missing the point on this. I'm gonna tell everyone here how you're missing the point on this.
Oh.
It's not our jurisdiction.
That's correct.
We have less right to tell them about. We have the same right to tell them what to do with their land. Let me finish. As I have to tell people in California what to do with their land.
Mhm.
We can make.
It's not
Let me
their
finish.
land, it's our land.
Let me
It
finish.
is the
Let me
town's
finish.
land, it is the
It's a
state's
state
land, which
park.
is our
Let me
land.
finish.
Anyone that thinks that someone else owns it
Let-
is wrong.
Started, but we have a resolution saying we want to consult with you on the development of this project. So this is the opportunity we're missing. We have an opportunity to consult with them on the development of this project. There's all kinds of things we could get out of this. There's all kinds of opportunities here. such as, I don't know, just let's brainstorm. There's all kinds of things we could do, and that's why I've kept a good relationship with the town, with the parks. I've spoken to them, and I also
Steve, have we taken a position regarding the closure of the parkway and supporting
so
that proposal?
I don't have to answer any question. I said to you already. The question is, you guys consulted.
Like
You
it's
consulted with the. They consulted with the board.
We're a town
No,
board.
we haven't.
We're a town board.
Where were you?
Together.
No, you don't. You don't control me. I gave
Well,
you.
no, if you're
Can I
representing
talk?
the town, you need to have the town in support of it. The
You
town
were there
representative.
when I informed you. Did you say, Nate, let's go talk to the parks? Did you? Yes or no? I'm trying to negotiate. Let me talk. No, it's tough. For every action, there's equal and opposite reaction. So you're taking a position to stop access to the waterfront for a lot of people. And I'm saying, if you want to talk to 5 people and say we're going to listen to 5 families screaming, good for you. You can do that. But I'm not going to do that.
They have
Number
access now, and they had a bike path
Well, good. You're taking your position to.
in place.
Let me give you a
to
counter
have a bike
suggestion.
path there,
Let me
and
give you a counter
something
suggestion.
changed. Something changed there.
You talk to New York State Parks?
You know why?
Why not?
Because what you said before is true. New York State Parks will do what they want to do.
So why have you talked to them? To help. Here, let me give you a
I
suggestion.
have another day, actually
Yeah.
2, to put in the comments, don't I? August
you do.
3rd. I need to get information,
Tomorrow.
and this meeting is one of the places I'm gonna get the information to put in my comments.
Go ahead.
Because
Go ahead.
all my comments are gonna be exactly what they ought to be, and they'll be the truth 100%.